Hey, the world's full of fantastic music. Each month, we explore an album of significance, its roots, how it makes us feel, and then banter about its influence and staying power. Join us on our journey as we dissect, discuss, and discover some of the world's greatest albums on The Sonic Collective.
Aloha, everyone. Welcome to the April 2020 review of our pick, ZZ Top's 1973 release, Tres Hombres. I can't believe this thing came out the year I was born, and it's 47 years old. Let's just get right into what everyone thought about it. Hey, Alan, tell us how you felt.
All right. I will not mince words. I fucking loved it. This was a really, really cool deep dive, and I never expected it to be, that good. I have, of course, I've heard LaGrange on the radio all the time. Like, it's a banger of a song. I didn't even think it was the strongest song on the album, and that's not taking anything away from LaGrange. I just straight up really liked almost every track on this album. It's just their blend of like blues and rock, and it's like this, it's got this southern twang. Billy Gibbons on the guitar. Holy crap, guys. Scott, I think in your sort of intro, a month ago or whatever, you were saying that Jimi Hendrix actually touted him as an influence on his guitar, and you were kind of surprised at, how his longevity in the industry. I can see it. I mean, some of the guitar work on this album is fire. Highlights for me in terms of tracks, I think Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers, that was my favorite one. I kept going back to that one. I really liked the way the two guys, it's like dueling vocals. What's the other guy's name? It's not Frank Beard. Dusty
Hill.
Dusty Hill, yeah. Yeah, just Gibbons and Hill, the way their vocals like play with each other, and they have very distinct voices. I just really liked it on that song. I think the only weak point for me on the entire album was Hot, Blue, and Righteous. Didn't really dig that track as much, just because it was almost ballady, but not in a way that I would normally like gravitate towards if I'm looking for a ballad. But even then, like, it was just a good song. I was trying to come up with, something a little more balanced to say about this album, but I really don't have a whole lot of negative to say about it. The lyrics are playful. It kind of puts you in this headspace of like, back then they were younger men. So they were younger dudes in Texas who just like to party, drink beer, and jam, and kind of, be in their scene. And it really kind of comes through and shows throughout this album. So I very much enjoyed it, and I'm glad you picked it because, I'm gonna dive deeper into what ZZ Top has to offer.
Great. Thanks, Alan. Well, let's throw it over to Mr. Scott Gregory.
Cool. Thanks, Alan. Yeah, I think this is really great. It's really infused with Southern rock. And we've already talked before about groups like the Allman Brothers, Brothers and Sisters, I think came out just before this a little bit and was really one of those first Southern rock albums. Lynyrd Skynyrd, Simple Man is one of the greatest songs I think ever recorded. It was covered by Theory of a Dead Man. Shout out to CanCon on that side of things. And I think the thing I like the most about Southern rock is that groups like ZZ Top and other ones, they just fuse really well with other genres, like on this one, the blues. And I don't know if it's just the nature of the artists that get involved in this genre itself as well too, but I really like it. And you can see it come all the way through into the 90s with the Black Crowes, the Kings of Leon, 2000s Kid Rock. I mean, Ba with the ba, the bang a bang, diggy diggy is basically the Lagrange of the 2000s. So shout out to Kid Rock and Uncle Kracker keeping the torch alive, even though ZZ Top is actually still touring and performing. So they're still hanging on to their torch until it's pried from their cold, dead hands. But Alan, something you said about Jimi Hendrix and the inspiration there. I was listening to Chic and just really admiring the guitar work on there. And I didn't draw that line on my own, but I can see it now with the different play he was doing with the choppiness of it and everything like that. It's really masterful, and I can see how future guitarists would just lean into what Billy does and play with that too, right? And I think a really interesting feat would be trying to repeat that solo like perfectly every concert. And I know I used to go to a lot of concerts before the world shut down, but they like to play with their own music in concert too. So I think it would be really interesting to go back in time. I've actually seen ZZ Top live, and I wish we would have done this first before that, because now I didn't even think to wonder if they try and play their own music perfectly when they're in concert, or if they also play with it themselves too. So like I said, they're still touring. Maybe I'll get the chance. But one of the things that surprised me was that there's actually no covers on this album. And I noticed the last couple times we've covered albums from the 60s and 70s, there's always at least 2 or 3 on there. And I did a little bit of digging in, and they didn't actually do any real covers until their 6th album, Deguelo, there. And they did 2, one from Isaac Hayes and one from Robert Johnson, which is like from the 30s. So I don't know who that is. But up until then, every single track is written by them, and I can really appreciate that.
We reviewed Robert Johnson.
Oh,
or maybe that was before you.
Did we? Oh,
yeah,
did we?
Back to
was that the original blues one? Am I just drawing a blank?
That might have been even pre-podcast when we were just doing it as a blog.
Maybe.
That was like 7 years ago. I don't remember.
Was it that really, really, really old one that I didn't like and that maybe I've now blocked out?
Yes,
I'll go back and look.
I picked it and none of you liked it. But anyway, sorry, I digress. But that was the base of blues. And also a good episode on the Sonic Collective.
I think it was, yeah. But if you were just saying it's that blues album you didn't like, you would have to be more specific. Because until you fuse it with something like Southern rock, I'm just not into it. But the cover side of things, and I think what I'd really want to stress as well too in general on this album was just the importance of listening to this with good headphones or speakers, because I listened to it on my phone a couple times and I totally lost the richness of the bass of the 3-piece that comes through. And I think that's something you notice, is that a lot of 3-pieces, there isn't a lot to them, right? And 2/3 of it is really relying on either like the bass of the drum or the bass guitar. And so when I was listening to it on my phone, it was a completely different experience than when I was listening to it with a good set of headphones on. So make sure if you're joining us on this that you're also listening on something that's going to allow the richness of the low end to come through. I'm not going to go too much into a lot of the songs. I know that we're probably going to have an AC/DC conversation in a person or two here. Looking through the wiki, there was a big deal made about the transition between Waiting for the Bus and Jesus Just Left Chicago. I didn't see it. I didn't see it before I read the wiki, and I couldn't even really see anything special about it after I read the wiki on it. So I don't know what was so great about that, but that's there. Apparently, what I did like was that there is some rock harmonica on both of those tracks. So shout out to James Harmon, who plays the harmonica on both of those. The world needs more cowbell. The world needs more harmonica. I think the only thing that really stood out for me is that on Hot Blue and Righteous, it really sounded like Nothing Else Matters by Metallica. The guitar work on it, it totally sounds, it sounds like Kirk Hammett just picked up Billy's guitar and started playing on that song just a little bit slower, right? Alan, I would be interested in you listening back to it again with that in mind and seeing if you see that similarity as well too. But once that stuck in my head, I couldn't shake it. Now hopefully I've ruined the song for everyone else as well too.
I'm gonna have to do that. And I wonder if you're right, maybe Kirk Hammett was actually inspired by ZZ Top.
Just like ZZ Top was inspired by AC/DC. So we're going full circle.
I think Billy Gibbons inspired a lot of great guitars.
For sure.
Think so, yeah.
For sure.
And so I'm not going to say a lot about LaGrange. It's obviously one of the greatest songs ever. I think out of all the songs on this album, that's the one that sounds most quintessential ZZ Top for me. It's got the big ranging guitar solo in it, the kind of lyrics going. So, yeah, that one stood out to me as well too, just because it does feel like it's the sound of the start of their signature sound coming through. And I already spoke about Chic and how I was really impressed with guitar on that. So overall, big fan of Southern rock, and their blues influence was not able to poison the well on that for me. I believe Darren.
Okay. Well, you know what? Usually Darren, the person picking goes last, but Darren, I know, usually has all kinds of factoids. So let's end with Darren, and I'm going to jump in and then throw to him last to bring it home. You brought up something, Scott, which is really important, is headphones. And I don't do this enough. And I was listening recently. I have some really nice Sony Bluetooth headphones, and I was listening to another album on them, and I could hear so many sounds that I'd never heard on the album before. So yeah, I think you bring up a good one. Anytime you're listening to an album, it's worth throwing on some solid headphones, and so much more comes through. Like you guys, I really, really love this album, and I don't think there's a weak track on it. It's interesting you brought up the no cover songs on it, because a lot of bands in that time did do cover songs. I just love the flow of it. And, you know, okay, you brought up the AC/DC, but Jesus Left Chicago came out in 1973. And I nearly shat myself when I heard it, because I love Ride On by AC/DC. Like, I've long loved that song, but that came out in 77. So that's 4 years after Jesus Left Chicago. And that's not even a similarity. Like, those are the exact same musical songs. Still love both of them, but incredibly the same. Alan mentioned Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers. I loved it. And as soon as I heard it, it reminded me of the movie Dazed and Confused, which, if you remember, that is set in 70s Texas. And I immediately just thought of the scene where they're all out having a beer party kind of near the tower. And I'm like, this song completely fits that era and time. And strangely, that movie is also in Texas. Hot Blue and Righteous, I kind of found it came right at the right time. You know, fifth song in, brings it down, just the perfect time to go refresh your beer. And I know you're probably all getting tired of me hearing me say this, but this is an album in the truest sense. You know, the songs are put together in a certain order. They flow well. It really like moves you through moods and energy the whole way through. Of course, LaGrange, we've all touched on that. I mean, such a classic, and it's informed so many other songs. And, you know, I can't remember the song you just mentioned, you know, similar to a Metallica song, but I mean, ZZ Top have laid the track work for so many. And you've all mentioned Chic. I just love the kind of trippy, long fade out on that one. It was really, really neat. So overall, I really love the blues rock blend of this album, which was really something happening in that era, especially like think Rolling Stones. They were all about black blues music at that time. Same with the Yardbirds, same with Zeppelin. So they were right around that same period, and those were all English bands. And until I really listened to this, I don't think ZZ Top kind of gets any of the real props and credit they should really get. And I love now the first 6 or so early ZZ Top albums. And what's funny is Eliminator was the first one I knew as a kid, and most people probably know. I don't like it nearly as much as all the albums before that. So getting ahead of myself with the influence, you think, go back and listen to all ZZ Top's like first 6 albums or so. They're incredible. And you mentioned Gibbons still doing it. He has a new blues album coming out, I think, in another month or 2. So yeah, I love this one start to finish. How about you, Darren?
Yeah, I'm totally with you guys. I own this album. I didn't pick it up too long ago, probably about a year and a half ago. Like everybody, I think I'd heard LaGrange, I'd heard Beer Drinkers, a couple of songs, but I hadn't really actually heard the whole album. And when I got it, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that LaGrange is on it. And I listened to it and it blew me away. When you picked this, I was pretty pumped because I knew how good of an album it was. Yeah, a couple things about it. I do like the facts sometimes, just the facts, man. But yeah, this was the third album, and the first 2 were kind of roughly unknown, and they were a little rough. And Billy Gibbons was known to say that he really felt that the sound that they wanted came out in this album. And they also got the producer Terry Manning. He had done Led Zeppelin 3. He worked for Stax Records in Memphis for many years. Stax is a real famous soul label, and they produced a lot of great soul acts. So he knew that he could really get that blues out of them, and I think that he really did. And it came out, and that sound, I agree, that beer drinkers duk, 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 duk. Yeah, it's just such a good, fun party riff, just driving. I always say, I find the one thing I like about ZZ Top, and yes, Scott mentioned it, and I will say it, they get accused of oh, it's like AC/DC or these other bands that just sound the same. Or we just did an interview with Danko Jones, a great Canadian artist who also, is kind of known for just some good, straightforward, good rockin' music. But I said that in the interview with Danko Jones, and I'll say it here, I'm starting to get pissed off at these people. And even, you know what, I hate to say this as a Canadian, and they get bashed, but Nickelback is an amazing band, and they get criticized so much. But realize the talent it takes to produce a great song after great song, even with help. It's just amazing and mind-blowing. There is serious talent there no matter what. And people are just basically they're so good, they're making it look easy. And yes, it is pretty straightforward music. They don't deviate so much from their specialty. They're really good at what they do. But yes, they're amazing. So I'll just leave that there. But and I like how they just kind of sit on the pocket. I always think of Kim Deal, the bassist for the Pixies, was really known for that, known for not doing much. But she was the queen of just kind of sitting in the pocket and laying that riff for the Pixies, and they would just play with her, and it just carried it. And I just think, especially Frank Beard on the drums, and just so tight they're just so tight together. I forget the name of the documentary that's on Netflix right now. They have a
Little Band from Texas or something like that.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks. Great documentary. And it starts out where they talk about just how when they first got together, they would just sit there and jam the blues. They just start playing blues riffs and just jam off each other. And you can tell this band has played together for a long time. Obviously, this was only a few years after they started, but just tight musicians, and the definition of the word. The other thing I really picked up, and I agree, headphones. Also, I listen on quality vinyl in your car is good too. I find crank it up, especially if you have a subwoofer. But yes, I find it's very well produced. I find you can pick out the instruments very clearly. You can hear the bass line super clearly. You can hear the guitars and the mastery of Billy Gibbons, because it sounds like there's 3 guitars and it's just one. And then Frank Beard, amazing. And I really find the drums, if anything, are just cranked up a notch more than a lot of bands are comfortable with. They usually keep the drums a little more subdued in the background, even though that sounds silly. But I just find you can pick up, you can feel like you can literally see him playing. I just think the sound was just so amazing. Billy Gibbons, we talked about him, such an amazing guitarist. You realize he played with Jimi Hendrix when he was super young in 1968, played with them. He got to play with Duane Allman, who he said taught him a lot. And he realized after he saw how good Allman was, how much he had to practice and just get tighter and more precise and slowed down and more deliberate. And that's Billy Gibbons really credits those 2 guys. That's pretty good idols to look up to. So, I mean, wow. And Billy Gibbons also said that they really liked how they had gone to Memphis and just nailed it, the home of the blues, and they were welcome there. He said they were honorary citizens of Memphis after this album, and that just felt like they kind of made it. And they said they got their shit kicker credentials. Actually, that was Pitchfork reporter named Andy Beta that there's an article, and I'll post it in the show notes, but it was a really interesting article on them. He said they got their shit kicker credentials, and I always like that. Quickly, LaGrange was about a whorehouse, the best little whorehouse in Texas. I'm not sure. Nobody really mentioned that, but that's what it was about. The movie that Dolly Parton and Burt Reynolds was in was based on that, but it was a real place from 1903, and it closed in 73. And there's this controversy saying that some felt that because LaGrange came out and identified it, that's why it got closed, which was not true because it was a whorehouse. It was probably going to get closed down eventually. But anyway, yeah, like I loved it. I loved it. Such a great album. Maybe we can throw it back to scores now and kind of summarize from here. So let's go back to the beginning and let's go to Alan.
All right. Yeah. It's been a long time since I've done this, but I think I got to give it 5s all around. I really, really thoroughly enjoyed this album way more than I expected to. ZZ Top is a legendary band, and this album just had nothing but gold on it, I think. There really wasn't any weak points. And like Scott Coates said, I mean, if you listen to it just in the order of, how they released it, it all flows together really nicely. It's just a great album. It's perfect length to sit and listen and get through. I found the recording to be, it didn't sound dated at all. Like, I forgot I was listening to an album from 73. This could have been released in the 90s. It doesn't really sound dated to my ears. And maybe that's just because I haven't listened to a lot of Southern rock from that era. But either way, I don't think I've given 5s across the board for a number of years now on the Sonic Collective. So ZZ Top, 5s all around.
Wow. Okay, Scott Gregory.
Well, that's hard to follow. I would just like to say in rebuttal to Darren that, like many Canadians, I do love to poke fun at Nickelback. It doesn't have to be justified. But in their defense, the acoustic version of Leader of Men is absolutely one of my favorite songs of all time. And the fact that it's Canadian is icing on the cake. So shout out to Nickelback, a very rare shout out to Nickelback from me, since I try to be honest here.
I didn't say I love their music.
Okay, I'm going to go on record too as saying I really do enjoy Nickelback songs, and I will stand up and defend them every chance I get.
Yeah.
All right. So would I recommend ZZ Top? Of course, I would recommend ZZ Top. I'm going to give them a 5 on that front. I've enjoyed them a long time, but I think, like Scott, I didn't really listen to any of their early stuff when I first got into them. Like I said, I liked them enough to actually straight up go see them in concert, but I didn't go back in time with them. So influence, I will say, is a 4.5 because of that. They didn't influence me to go back in time on them on that front. And that's even as someone who really likes Southern rock. I honestly didn't even put them in that category until we did this podcast. So shout out for that. But in the spirit of rounding up, I'm going to give this album an overall a 5 because it is an album. It's an amazing album. It's well put together, produced extremely well, and it's third album in, but it's tight, it's crisp, it's strong. You can see the influence that it has going forward on all these other artists, and I really think anyone that wants to understand Southern rock in general, it filled a big hole on that front for me. And then some of those groups that I had mentioned in the start, as far as the Black Crowes, the Kings of Leon, Kid Rock, all this progression going all the way up into our own time, and the fact that they could wind up playing in concert with ZZ Top still, you just really need to listen to this album, everyone. 5.
Great. Well, I'll jump in. Recommend a 5. I mean, I'm just repeating what you said, but got to hear this if you're interested in music. Influence, I'll give it a 4.5. I'm not sure what it would need to get a 5, but 4.5. On the influence, one band I'm finally going to listen to that I've heard mentioned in documentaries and articles the last couple of years, are the Moving Sidewalks, which Billy Gibbons started in. So it's time for me to now finally, I've been influenced and going to listen to the Moving Sidewalks. And overall, I'll give it a 5. I'm just not sure what more you could possibly want for in an album. How about you, Darren?
Yeah. Such a great album, right? 2 things quickly. Frank Beard, apparently the drummer, is a scratch golfer, which is amazing, and recovering drug addict. And he was credited as Rube Beard on this album. Actually, that was his nickname, Rube. And I couldn't actually. I tried to find why they called him Rube, and they said this is a nickname. There was nothing. It was the 70s. I don't know. They were high a lot, but and I do like Cannabis, and Legend just released a new one, a local Calgary edible cannabis supplier. They have a new dark orange chocolate. It's very nice, 10 milligrams THC hybrid. Good stuff. Highly recommended. Don't overdo it. Just start a little bit and dose later. But I kind of thought about this, and I think I had a 0.5 and stuff. But the more I think about it, this is fine. This is a banger. Like, who's kidding who? Shit, man. This is like such a good album. Like, you can put this one in a party, let it play. Banger. Fuck, like 5's done. Like, yeah. So well done, Scott. Like, great pick. I already knew I loved the album, but it was nice to really like give it a month and just go through it. Like, I probably listened to this 12 times, and that's a lot if you think in a month. So yeah, good job, Scott, and well done.
Yeah, well, I didn't pick it because thinking that it was going to be so unanimously liked, but just that, hey, they were on my radar. So I'm glad everyone enjoyed it. Just historically, I think it's a great musical journey. And just back to Alan, one thing you said is that it doesn't sound like 1973. I mean, Darren, you also mentioned the producer made Led Zeppelin 3, so it just kind of brings it all together. So I really encourage people to go listen to other ZZ Top albums. I love Tejas they have. It's awesome. So thanks, everyone, for listening. Who is picking next? Is it Alan or Scott? I can never remember.
It is me. I am picking next. I've already got the pick in mind.
Alan.
I think Alan's muted. Alan's
we'll cut that.
I'm not. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
Okay,
Yeah,
I don't know.
You hear the words coming out of my mouth.
It didn't show as muted. Yes, that would be me picking next. I've already got the pick in draft mode on our website, which you can find at thesoniccollective.com, by the way.
Perfect. Looking forward to it. Thanks to listening, everybody. Great new pick coming up for May 2021.
Thanks for listening and exploring with us. We'll be back real soon with another pick and critique of albums that matter here at the Sonic Collective.